of the Food Systems COVID-19 Hub meeting. And yeah, I'm super excited that you can join us today. We have a nice agenda laid out with some updates from our partners at the WSDA Regional Markets Program. So, and then obviously time to share about other programs and resources as well. So just a quick overview of our meeting today. I am going to give my little spiel like I always do about the hub itself, the needs assessment tool, as well as we're going to hear from regional markets. And these are some of the topics that we thought that we might be able to touch on today. A little bit about the survey that just closed yesterday, an update on some of the work that the Food Policy Forum is doing, some of the Farm to School Network work that's happening, as well as any information that the WSDA has to share about their Food Hub work. I want to welcome all of you again and ask you to introduce yourself in the Zoom chat box. If you could let us know who you are, where you're located, what you do. And again, this chat box is really a great resource throughout the call today. You can add links there. You can have discussion with other folks who are on the call today. We will download that chat box and make sure that any of those resource links that are shared are going to go up on our COVID Hub website as well. So a little bit about the WSU Food Systems Program. We're a program that's about 3 years old. We're comprised of a large statewide team of both internal and external partners, as well as our office team, which includes myself as director, Nicole Witham, who's on the call today. She's our statewide coordinator. Abba Kaiser, who's on the call today, she's our project manager, and Tia Taylor, who's on the call today, who's our office coordinator. So I just want to thank all of you who are part of the team for participating in these calls and all the work that you're doing. This is our mission statement here, and we seek to work with communities throughout the state to foster viable farm businesses, optimize sustainable natural resource stewardship, and to promote scaled processing and distribution, always in the pursuit of access to healthy food for all. And you can see our 7 focus areas as well. WSU is the land grant institution for Washington State, and we have offices located in all 39 counties and on the Colville Reservation. We also have multiple campuses, and we have a link on our website to the Drive Wi-Fi program that's happening right now as well. So most of these locations have available broadband access now. So if you are struggling with being able to participate in meetings online, being able to do work, whatever it is that you need in terms of broadband access, make sure that you look for some of these spots located around the state where you can hook up to a WSU network and partner networks to be able to do some work. So you are participating in a portion of the WSU Food Systems COVID-19 Hub. The purpose of the hub is to provide a space to connect regularly with both WSU and external partners working across the food system to collect and update COVID-19 resources to support Washington food system stakeholders. We also have our weekly dynamic needs assessment tool, which we've been plugging quite a bit, and we're seeing the response rate increase. So thank you all very much. And we'll post a link in the chat box so that you can do it even while we're on the call today if you have time. And then just to provide time and space for stories and to share how we're all doing during this pandemic. I just want to remind you all about our calendar of events. We've been posting webinars that are coming up, as well as links to recorded webinars. It's a great resource, and we're really hoping that it is a useful catalog of information that's happening across the state. If you have upcoming events that you don't see posted here that you want to have listed, please either put a link in the chat box today or reach out directly to Nicole or Tia, and they can make sure that that information is getting posted on our website. And then the needs assessment tool. So this is something that we're hoping all of you, as well as all of your networks, fill out on a weekly basis. Please share it widely. You can post it on social media. You can send it out to your producer lists. And we look at it on a weekly basis. So we will be updating the reports after the call today with information from the last week of April, moving into the first couple of days of May. And right now the survey is open for reporting from May 3rd through May 9th, so last week. So if you can go in and give us an update on how things are going in your community. And again, I can send you reports. I'll be sending out reports for those of you who've already requested them this afternoon. And this was one of the current high needs. I just briefly looked at the, oh, go ahead. Does someone have a question? Maybe not. So this was one of the current high needs, which is different. We've seen a lot of food handling info for farmers markets and direct to consumer over the past few weeks, but food handling for processing and distribution definitely came out as a high need. There were several high needs across all of the categories, with food for food banks still as one of our highest needs, as well as fiscal support for food and farm businesses. And I know we have some folks on the phone today, particularly Business Impact Northwest, who can hopefully, when we get to a point of just sharing some general information, can update us on some of their programs as well. So I want to welcome the WSDA Regional Markets Program today. They're going to be sharing some information. And Laura, I know that you're on the call, and I'm not sure if Chris or Karen was able to join as well. I wasn't sure if this is, if these are the topics that you wanted to cover, but we were just kind of brainstorming about some of the different aspects of your programs and what might be of interest to folks on the call today. And I'm happy to jump in as well if you want to share my involvement with the Food Policy Forum. But I know that we've had a couple inquiries over the last week and a half or so about the WSDA survey, which I know closed yesterday, but just to get some more information about the purpose of the survey and how it's going to be used. And then if there's any updates that you want to share just across your programs in general. We're thrilled to have you here. You're one of our most important partners working across the state, and it's just been really incredible to see all the work that you're doing, that you do year round, but especially in light of COVID. So welcome to the call today, and thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was very kind. I mean, I think the value of this food systems team as a whole that WSU hosts is about being able to connect and support each other's work and collaborate. So it's a critical part of how we're able to do what we all do together. Well, I will be happy to run down this agenda and give some quick updates. I will be the first to share with everyone that this is the first time seeing this particular agenda, so I may not have as much content prepared for everyone as you'd like, so just jump in with questions if that's helpful. And I will dive in. I don't think my other team members are on the call, although Chris, I really may be able to join later. And so if people want to go more deep into the work he's doing with Farm to School, you can ask him questions if he's able to join us. So
and
quickly,
I wanted to let you know too,
sorry.
if there's anything else, like we literally just threw this together right before the call thinking of some topics, but if you have other topics that you want to cover too, please jump right in. So there's no limit. Yeah.
And I'm not tracking the chat, so maybe if someone can help with that, if questions come up that way, then I can be sure to address them. But quickly, let's start with the survey, because I know, well, first of all, thanks to all of you who helped get the word out about the survey. It was a really huge effort, and I am very pleased to say we had an excellent response. So some of you may be familiar with the occasional, technically biannual survey that the Regional Markets Program does of producers that we use to just kind of get a check the pulse kind of the sector, the small farm and direct marketing sector, and inform our own programming. And we tend to distribute that in a similar way that we distributed this economic impact survey. And normally our response rate for that is around 200 farms or 200 respondents. So I share that just for context. With this economic impact survey related to COVID, which was really instigated by Director Sanderson at WSDA, we had 789 responses. So really, really massive increase from what we usually see. So that's fantastic. Though we were focusing the survey on, I should say we focused the survey questions and outreach on the regionally and locally marketing sector. We did get farms of all types replying, and a notable percentage of larger scale tree fruit growers. So I would say about 200. We haven't really analyzed the data yet, but just really quick reviews are about 200 of those nearly 800 respondents were large scale orchards. We have the ability, of course, to analyze the data so that we can select out for that and look more directly at the smaller scale farms. The purpose of that survey was really to be able to gather information that our policy and our team and our director can use in communicating with decision makers about what needs we see in our state related to the impacts of COVID, and to hopefully be able to honestly advocate and shape for relief that will be of benefit to our state. And so that we're analyzing the data, or we will be analyzing the data really with that kind of objective in mind, and helping to inform the director and the policy team here. That said, I think we will be able to report out some of the information from it, because I know everyone's really eager to see that information. I just don't know yet at this moment what kind of what shape that sharing out is going to take. But let's see, are there any questions about that in particular right now? It just closed last night, so we really don't have much to say about results at this point, unfortunately.
I just have a question about if you know of what other states are doing as well in terms of their departments of ag and this kind of survey work. If you've heard of other surveys that are happening. I've talked to some people in other states, and they've been really impressed at the outreach work that is happening in Washington State. And I know through the Food System Leadership Network, there has been a lot of communication about what's happening in other states. And I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm aware that many states are doing some form of an economic impact survey. You know, I've seen them from a few other states. Ohio, I think, was really quick to get one out. I'd say that ours is more extensive in terms of the questions and the types of information we were asking, because we really wanted to be able to have this survey help fill in some of the gaps in information that we tend to have around the locally and regionally marketing sector. So in addition to this survey, Director Sanderson is also doing sort of roundtable phone calls, I guess is maybe the best way to describe them, with the commissions, the large commodity commissions, and just in a less formalized way asking for that similar information. And so he was really aware that for those producers that are represented by those commissions and trade associations, there is already a conduit for gathering information and sharing impacts and needs, and wanted to make sure that we didn't miss having information and, you know, fairly nuanced information about the impacts to local and regionally marketing farms. I think a lot of us who work in this realm know that those farms can tend to be underrepresented in a lot of the USDA NAS data, and kind of the complexities of the business models and therefore impacts and therefore needs in a situation like what we're experiencing now can be a little bit, I don't want to say harder to describe, but maybe just more nuanced to describe. And what we know is that a lot of USDA and FSA in particular, traditional programs that may or may not be mobilized to help support farms with COVID response, tend to be set up to work in a certain way that isn't always as good of or as an easy fit for diversified direct marketing farms with pretty complex business models. So we wanted to be able to have some firsthand information from those producers to share. So I think that differs from what we're seeing in other states. I do know that nationally, the Association of Departments of Ag, NASDA, Directors of Departments of Ag, is a place where many states are sharing what they're hearing and seeing in the ag sectors, and using that as a place to discuss and share policy and relief asks. So I anticipate that Director Sanderson will be doing the same with this information.
Great, thank you.
I'm trying to scan through it really quickly to see if there's any little nuggets I can share with you all. But I think until we work through the data, I don't really have a whole lot that would be useful out of context. I'm sorry, unless there's a key question that someone really wants to know about.
And if people have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We can relay them to the WSDA, or you can ask directly as well.
Hi, Laura. This is Hannah Browse. I had just an excited feeling that I wanted to share about, what a great response. 789. That's amazing. We'll be looking forward to a time when that information is available, and maybe we can look for themes or gems, or even just things that maybe we should start to include in our weekly WSU survey. If there are some themes or some things that just really emerge as being useful or helpful or unexpected, laying those two surveys on top of each other, and then coming up on, picking up on similar themes or surprises might be really beneficial to both of our teams.
I will share something I agree, Hannah, thank you for that. Yeah, it was really heartening to have the response, because we all know producers can be really kind of over-surveyed, especially during times like this, and can also be kind of reticent to share, information that we were asking around, employees and sales impacts, and that's really close business information. And so I'm also just really grateful to producers who were able to trust to share that information with us. One thing I will share that I just found really interesting is that because we left the survey open for a couple weeks, and of course, we're getting the daily updates on survey respondents, and I was able to hop in and look at some information as it was coming in. There were some interesting things to track over time. And one of those was responses to the question about how much producers were accessing the SBA relief programs like payroll protection and EIDL. So as you guys know, it's really just been in the last week and a half, I think my timing is right on that the economic injury and disaster loan, the EIDL loan, became available to agricultural businesses. And I actually saw that reflected in responses in time. There were more people saying they had either submitted or been approved for that loan in the last 3 days than the prior week. So that's neither really here nor there in terms of probably useful information for all of you, but I just thought it was interesting to be able to see relief programs kind of rolling out in real time that way. Overall, I would say still the number of producers in our state who are reporting taking advantage of those programs is incredibly low. Yeah.
Thank you. So we had next up, if you want to talk about the Food Policy Forum at all. I know that there's been
Sure.
a shift in some of the work that's happening there in response to COVID. And I don't know if everyone on the call even knows about the Food Policy Forum. So maybe just an introduction to kind of what it is and some of the work that's been happening within the forum in response to COVID and your leadership with the Washington Conservation Commission, both through the WSDA and the Conservation Commission as the conveners. It would be great to hear.
Great. Okay, so very briefly, the Food Policy Forum is a multi-stakeholder, sort of cross-sectoral group established by the legislature and convened by the Conservation Commission, the directors of the Conservation Commission and the State Department of Ag. And it has now been meeting for 5 years. I'm not quite sure that's right. With a small amount of funding through provisos in the budget every year. And this past legislation, it was just established in statute. So that's really good news. Basically the benefit of that convening that type of a body to look at food systems issues in kind of a cross-sectoral systemic way I think has been recognized as being a really valuable thing for both legislators and the governor's office. And so that's nice that it will get to continue in some form, hopefully. But so, as Laura mentioned, the forum has already done some work. It produced a report that was published in July of 2019, and that report is available on the Conservation Commission website. There's a page for the Food Policy Forum, and all of the meeting minutes and publications from the forum are posted there. The 2019 report outlined a series of recommendations for how we could improve the food system in Washington across 5 major kind of topical buckets, although everyone on the forum and the report itself recognize that those topics are really interrelated and they really kind of all need to be advanced in tandem. But those buckets, if I can remember, were food insecurity, increasing access for small and mid-scale producers to markets, including institutional markets, rural economic development and infrastructure, farmland access and preservation, and impacts of climate change. So with that report sort of submitted to the legislature, the work of the forum became to identify how those recommendations might be implemented. And in particular, the forum was taking a look at what are some early actions, because some of the ideas were big and kind of conceptual and would obviously need a long time to really be developed more fully to a point of action. But others were things that we really knew could happen right away. And so the forum was beginning the work to kind of further refine the recommendations in those areas and be able to identify how and what could take place quickly. And that's when COVID happened. And so we were actually asked by the governor's office and the emergency response entity that had been formed to look at food access issues in the response to convene the forum specifically to look at some of these food system issues from this sort of like, 3 to 9 to 12 month time frame, and make recommendations or basically take the work that the forum was already doing and layer onto it a COVID response lens. Recognizing that, it wasn't being asked to do emergency response coordination or suggestions, but to kind of take the space to take a breath and say, what are these food system issues that we really see are emerging right now because of COVID? And how would we, kind of shift our early action recommendations to be responsive to COVID? So that is the work that the forum is doing right now. It's mostly working, although generally forum meetings are open to anybody who wants to attend and listen. Most of the work that's happening right now is happening in small group work teams of the appointed members. I should have clarified that members are appointed by the directors of the two commissions, the commission and the department. And so there's a draft of those being finalized right now, and the forum works on consensus, and so the plan is for the forum to come together and approve those in the end of June. But I will say that I know, because the governor's office and the directors are really interested in the knowledge and expertise of the forum and the perspective of the forum, my sense is that the draft will possibly percolate into sort of the knowledge base that our department's working from in terms of the asks and recommendations that they're making now to state and federal agencies related to COVID response. So it's kind of wonky as it's described, but I actually think that a lot of the topics that are raised on the forum are things that are near and dear to the hearts of people in this group. And my personal feeling is that the level of ideas and thinking and actually collaborative engagement across these scales of agriculture and sectors of expertise is really heartening. And one of the amazing things that happened from my perspective when we took this shift to COVID was all of a sudden ideas that had sort of lived within one of the topical groups sort of just organically became the priority areas of focus for other topical groups, which to me represented this, that what we all know is that the food system really is totally integrated, that issues of food insecurity and access are completely related to the viability and functioning of local farms and ranches, which is completely related to their access to infrastructure and questions of rural economic development and employment and that sort of thing. So it was for me, as someone like many of you who's worked on these ideas for a long time, it was sort of like this proof is in the pudding sort of a moment of like, wow, it actually is happening. So I'll stop talking about that and see if anybody has any questions. I feel like this is the Laura Raymond show today.
And I just wanted to point out to everyone that we put links to the Food Policy Forum website in the chat box, as well as a link to the PDF that was developed in 2019. So you can all access that report if you want to and see what was laid out, what Laura was talking about, and then now what's being further refined. And I would echo exactly what you said, the kind of duplicity of ideas that are coming up in each of those buckets or teams, and the fact that, you know, those are the linkages that are most important to be working on right now. I mean, in general, but it's been really, I think, like you said, very heartening to see how integrated the food system is, which we all know, but to have all of these stakeholders also agree as we move through this process. So are there questions in particular about the work that the Food Policy Forum is doing? And you can put your question in the chat box as well, or just ask.
I have a question. This is Kelly Henwood, and I'm so sorry if I missed this before, Laura, but you said that there were appointed people on the council. Are there county commissioners on that council? Do you know?
I don't believe there is a county commissioner on the council. The full list of members, there's about 33 appointed members, and they are all listed on that link to the food policy page, if you'd like to look at who's on there. There's a representative of local food policy forum, the Puget Sound Regional Food Policy Forum. There are conservation commission or conservation districts represented. There's a range of statewide and regional organizations, community-based organizations, producer organizations. There are some county ag planners. Laura Lewis also is appointed. Am I missing anyone that you can think of that would help kind of respond to that question?
There are some commodity commissions. Did you say that already?
Yeah.
No, you did say that already. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And there's also a few elected officials as well, so that sit on the forum. So it's a nice tie between some of the local community-based organizations all the way up into statewide leadership. So I feel like it is a really nice mix of individuals that participate. The Young Farmers Coalition was recently added. TILF is a participant, as well as the Washington State Farmers Market Association. So and then, like Laura was saying, several of the food security groups as well. So it's a nice, I feel like it's a nice mix.
Great, thanks.
Question if there was tribal representation on the forum.
There is not formal tribal representation on the forum, and that is something that forum members have raised. So I don't know if that will officially change in the future or not.
Great. Any other questions for Laura about the forum? So
I'll just say one last thing. If people
ahead.
kind of want a preview into the COVID particular work that the group is doing now, if it's not up there now, it should be shortly on that same link that Nicole posted. The April 10th meeting summary will include kind of draft versions of what the forum's working on right now.
Great. I saw Chris Iberly was on the call, and Chris, we added a couple of just agenda items if you have some time to update people on the work you're doing with the Farm to School Network, as well as some of the Food Hub work, if you have information to share.
Yeah, sure. How much time do you have?
Well, we have quite a bit of time for this call, so
Okay.
yeah. So just go for it, and if we need to cut you off, we'll let you know. But you have the floor.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. This is Chris Iberly, WSDA Regional Markets. I'm the Farm to School lead, and also do work with local food system infrastructure, food hubs, collaborative, small farm marketing projects. So I'll start with something farm to school related. The main thing we're working on at WSDA Farm to School within our program right now is a farm to school availability list for spring and summer. It's initially been compiled with information from farms that have participated in things like Taste Washington Day or other kind of WSDA farm to school events, some planning meetings we did in the spring. It's about 120 farms so far, and circulating it now for updates. The goals are really twofold. One is to give farms an opportunity, especially if they have products that they need to move that are really good for schools that they want to sell directly to schools right now, to add to this resource and directory list, and send that out to schools. So the second is so that schools have an easy way to access information on, what local products are available near them, especially if they're not able to get certain things from their current distributors, which we're seeing a few examples of. And as Laura mentioned, I was trying not to over survey and send this out that broadly, but I will send it out next week via the WSU Food Systems list. If you want to forward it on to farms you think would be good fits, or I know a lot of you are working with farmers in your area on directories, or get it, adding it if they're new, availability known. That's going to be sent out to schools probably the following week, so the week of May 25th. And that'll go out with OSPI and then directly to especially schools that are kind of farm to school active already, that are actually interested in supporting farms through this time too, as they continue to feed kids and serve meals in really creative kind of grab and go ways, which also means their types of products they can use are kind of narrow, but the email and the updating form that we have gives some good advice for the types of things that schools might be looking for now and might be really interested in getting from local farms in order to support farms in their community. The second piece is, we're part of the Washington State Farm to School Network and work with, WSU Food Systems and other members of that network to coordinate kind of statewide and regionally on farm to school activities. And so the network is 300 members at this point, something like that. It's also really peer-to-peer and kind of volunteer-led. So there's statewide groups that talk about supporting each other with school garden programs or local food and school meals. A lot of the conference calls are, like I said, pretty volunteer-led, and the capacity, I think, of people to pull off coordinating those networking opportunities is a challenge right now. But there's still obviously interest in seeing how farm to school can persist and be a solution, to the pandemic and the COVID crisis. So we're still meeting monthly as a coordinating team, especially to support those different pieces of farm to school the best we can. And there was a great meeting we had yesterday with 11 or 12 people that are working on farm to school and just trying to support each other and figure out what the strategies are, as different agencies and organizations to support farm to school, whether it's this availability list or, school garden programs. So we'll be continuing to do that at least once a month to provide a space to do some of that strategizing. And yeah, a lot of discussion with the network on, what is the change that's happened in school meals and how does farm to school be a part of that? And also how are people dealing with school closures and access to their gardens in their area, which is really a district to district conversation, but school gardeners and food and ag educators have also really been innovative in sharing those resources through the statewide network for things like social distancing practices in the garden and how to conduct virtual lessons from the garden, and make sure students still have a way to access the educational side of things if they're not able to be there in person, which is pretty inspiring to see. And there's definitely farm to school success stories happening all around the state, both with local food and school meals and school gardens and food and ag education. So people are adapting, and that's pretty inspiring. And the last update I'll give is we've been kind of facilitating and coordinating work with food hubs and kind of collaborative small farm marketing organizations, small farm cooperatives over the last couple of years, and have a statewide food hub community of practice, which is a Facebook group and occasional phone calls. One thing we've been doing a lot lately is working with a few of those food hubs that are part of that group on applying to the USDA Farmers to Families Food Box Program. Awards for that came out last Friday, and 3 small farm, food hub, and cooperative organizations did get awards for that contract. We're still working to support them on navigating those contracts and starting up deliveries soon through that program to the food banks that they've partnered with. And there's other organizations, larger distributors that serve Washington State that are part of that USDA Food Box Program as well. But we're looking ahead to the food. There's a lot of growing interest, I think, in sharing online marketing collaboratively with multiple farms or with these food hub organizations. And a few of the topics we'll be looking at organizing calls in the future are things like transportation and delivery, like how are food hubs adapting, and do they need to add more capacity to move product and transport it? What types of gaps are there, or what kind of solutions are they working on already? what are resources that can be mobilized and partners to help fill those gaps. And then direct to consumer sales, as a food hub or like a multi-producer CSA or multiple farms working together to supply direct to consumer kind of sales channels, because food hubs and cooperative marketing organizations are approaching that in a lot of different ways. Some of them are starting those up anew as a part of their business or organizational model, and some of them are new organizations that are starting up just to kind of serve that need. So I think I'll stop there. That was kind of a lot. I don't know if there was farm to school related questions I can answer, or the food hub piece.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. I have a question here from Diane Smith. Thanking you for maps of school meal sites and wondering if you know if distribution will be the same for summer or will there be a shift when official school year is over?
Yeah, that's a good question that actually all the schools in OSPI are asking USDA now too. They're working on waivers to, so for folks that don't know, school meals served during the school year is one program, and then summer food service program is a different program, although there's a lot of overlap. Like some of the school districts continue to serve summer meals just in a slightly different format, but also other organizations like nonprofits also serve summer food service program sites. But now with COVID, I think they're trying to streamline that and schools are trying to assess whether they can just continue doing what they're doing with the type of distribution they're getting food out to the community now is actually pretty closely related to how they have done summer meals. So they can maybe just transition seamlessly over to doing their summer meal sites, but there's some bureaucratic paperwork or things that needs to happen for waivers to allow for that. So I think that's the goal, that there may be just for everybody's ease of access and operations, both operations from the provider side and access on the families and students, kids side, to just have it be pretty seamless and kind of keep doing what you're doing through the summer. But there might be some changes depending on other organizations that usually do summer meals and whether they want to be doing that again this year, or what their capacity is. So there will be some shifting, I think, but they're trying to avoid too many upheavals, especially at this time, and try to have that be more seamless. So.
Great, thank you. I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer it or not, but I know a month or so ago they were talking about typically there's about 600,000 kids that are eligible for free and reduced lunch programs, but they were only seeing about a third of those participants access food distribution sites set up for meal distribution. And I'm wondering if those numbers have changed, if we're seeing them increase. Like I said, you may not know that information. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, that's also a good question. I don't know the current numbers on that. Yeah, it's a bit of a data collection challenge to know. It's hard to know which students aren't accessing, because some of the school sites aren't necessarily, the spirit of the summer meals too is that they don't actually ask for verification or to fill out the usual free and reduced lunch paperwork. And a lot of schools are, because of the big need out there, taking the same approach with their programs now, is that any kid that needs food can get food without having to fill out paperwork. So the flip side of that is that they don't necessarily know who is or is not getting food based on some of those free and reduced lunch rates. So yeah, I don't know the numbers, but there are definitely people who know, especially in rural areas, challenges getting to those food sites. So some schools have shifted to putting their food on buses, sending that around to the community, and trying to reach as many kids as possible, because in most cases they're not serving food at every single school site that they would during a normal school year. So that's a known challenge.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Chris? You can, or Laura, they're both still on the call, so you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can post a question in the chat box.
This is Carrie in Wahkiakum County, and I just had a question around the USDA summer lunch program. If you had heard anything around if that was going to be administered differently this year or in the future. In the past, our counties tried to use that program, but found the parameters pretty restrictive as far as not being able to feed family members or having to dispose of unused food at the end. And in the end, we started going with nonprofit funding versus working within those parameters. And I'm just wondering if you're hearing any changes on the policy side of that.
Yeah, right. Like feeding adults and families through summer food's been something I think people have flagged as an issue in the past. I don't know. I think they're figuring out first the transition from school year service, school lunch program service to summer meals right now. That's part of that waiver and flexibility process. But I think that is something they're going to look at getting some more flexibility for. But I haven't heard that that's been completed yet, or what the status is.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does seem like there's some wait and see right now. I know just in talking with Jen Moss and Maggie Great, who we had on the call last week, or maybe it was even the week before, and looking at their Be Well, Live Well website that they have set up specifically for SNAP Ed. And they typically list all of the summer meal program locations. And they said that they still haven't even gotten an update yet on what those locations will be for this summer. So
yeah, I will say one indicator, I mean, obviously kids eating food in the cafeteria through the school lunch program doesn't have a lot of parent or family involvement in that, but a lot of schools, some are doing even like grocery box and bag style distribution that's intended for families. So already, the school lunch during the school year approach has expanded somewhat to try to include some of the families beyond just kids or students, although a kid or student has to be part of the household to tap into those meal programs. But yeah, the way it works is that OSPI and districts are working with USDA on a lot of these waivers to try to get some of those flexibilities. So there is still some waiting and requests and deliberation happening with USDA on that.
Nicole has a question for you. Do you want to ask it directly?
He might be already reading it, but I just thought I had heard a creative kind of response story from Concrete Schools, where they were. I don't know as much about it. I heard it, so if you knew about it, I was wondering if you could share that story.
Yeah, sure. I love. Well, let's talk positive.
Yeah, let's share a positive.
Concrete Farm to School, of course. Yeah, they're awesome. They have been for years, and this is in Skagit County. So Concrete Farm to School. Look them up on Facebook. The coordinators there are posting updates. I think from some of their gardens. They're building a greenhouse, but now are doing recipe kits. So they're sending meal kits, some including locally sourced product from farms in the area. But also from their gardens, and then are pairing that with, I think one of their coordinators is actually posting cooking videos from home that are paired up with the recipe kits. So the kids and families can get those recipe kits. I think this week is some rhubarb meal item, and then can see the cooking kind of instructional video. Because that's the goal of the program is also helping kids do scratch cooking and those sorts of things too. So yeah, it's a great story. GoSkagit.com just put out an article on their program too, so you can kind of see how it works with getting those meal kits home to kids and families, the recipes that come with it, so the food itself, and then also the education that goes along with it.
Any other questions for Chris or Laura? Okay, well, you can always post questions in the chat box and we can relay those to them as well. And just to remind everyone, this is recorded. So if you know someone who missed out on this call, who wanted to be able to participate and hear some of these updates, they can find this recording on our website after the call today. Thank you both so much for giving us all of this updated information. It's really, really useful and important, especially it's useful and important year round, but particularly during COVID, just to hear the incredible work that you're all doing. And I know you're both spread very thin, so I just want to thank you for probably working twice as much as you have prior to COVID. So thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and open up the call for, I'm moving my screen around here. We're going to go ahead and open the call up for some open discussion. And before we get started, I wanted to just invite, we have, let me see here. We have Carrie King on the call, and we're going to have a more detailed update about some of the work that King Conservation District is doing, as well as other conservation districts. But I wanted to invite her to share for a couple minutes on some of the work that they're doing to develop a support tool.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Good, my internet keeps freezing up. So, we, the farm team, the food and farm team, were tasked by the board at KCD to create a grassroots tool to link farmers and producers to resources that they need to survive this crisis. And the problem is that a lot of our dairy farms and beef producers either don't have the time, are not technologically savvy enough, and some of them don't even check emails to be able to keep up with the vast amount of resources that are out there on websites like WSU's COVID response website, farmkingcounty.org, Washington Young Farmers. There's amazing resources out there, but they felt overwhelmed and were asking for a tool to boil things down. So we compiled a team, and we went through, or are going through, I should say, thousands of websites, and placing all the information into 6 different buckets that look a lot like the buckets that are already on you guys' website. So we plagiarized, if you will, the tools to place in the buckets for our different cooperators. And then because we have a relationship with a lot of our dairy and beef people already, we'll start small with them and make a phone call, if you will, and walk them through our different buckets. So like for financial, it might start with, have you received your stimulus check? Did you know that unemployment is available for farmers for the first time ever and has a extra COVID bump of an extra $600 a week until July 30th? Would you be interested in hearing about foreclosure programs to stop foreclosures on your home? Would you want to talk about small business loans? There's some options that I think might work well for you because you have less than 500 employees. And so just sort of work our way down this tool with them. They have asked specifically for a phone call because going to these different websites that link them to all these different links, that is the problem for them, and that's the barrier, if you will. So we're trying to make this really simple. And then for our more savvy farmers and producers, we can reach out to them through social media. And if they're interested in making an appointment, if you will, to go through some of these tools or to make sure that they're up on the most current information, then we'll be happy to do that. Some of our buckets, obviously financials is the big one, but safety and business planning, market opportunities, legal support, mental health and well-being bucket. So you don't have to be a current KCD cooperator, you just have to be a farmer or producer. And what we're emphasizing during these conversations with people is that we're not experts and we're not first responders. We're just trying to connect you to the resources that you might need. And some of our people are like, don't send me a link, give me a phone number. So we are adjusting our service depending on your needs. So it's a lot of these folks don't have time to keep up with everything that's changing all the time. And so it's our job to listen on these phone calls and glean the data from the surveys, plug it back into our tool that'll be a living resource and be able to respond to people. And then on the flip side, if they say, okay, could you keep me abreast of all the small business loans and call me back with any new information, or once this loan gets re-upped for funding, could you call and let me know when that happens? And so there will be follow-up like that so that we can constantly course correct and try and keep people current.
Great, Carrie. Thank you so much. I know we talked about once the tool is kind of up and running to have you give a more kind of thorough overview of some of this work. And I just had a question about other, there's, for those of you who don't know, the conservation districts even have a farther reaching impact on the state than WSU. We're in 39 counties on a reservation. There's 45 district offices, and many producers across the state do their farm plan with a conservation district farm planner. And I see this as really like an amazing complementary service to a lot of that work. And I'm wondering if there's other conservation districts that are going to follow this model.
We'll see. I mean, the board thinks that there are, and that there is a need for other CDs to try this. So we'll see. And I mean, we're definitely building it in a way where we could pass that along, and there might require some customization for your county. But for the most part, our programs are that we're talking to them about are either federal or state, so it would apply to them. But I mean, it's tough for anybody to keep up with this, right? Much less if you're super busy right now trying to get your fields ready, or stressed about how you're going to survive one more month. So yeah, we hope that this is kind of a lifeline for folks.
Great, thank you. Questions for Carrie? You can put them in the chat box or unmute yourself. And I know we'll learn more in the weeks to come. So I really appreciate you just sharing a little bit right now. And then I wanted to see, I think I saw Henry from Business Impact Northwest, and I'm not sure if Dominique is on the phone as well. I know you have some programs coming up, and you've just been doing incredible work with financial assistance and resources for food and farm businesses. Do you have any additional updates that you want to share?
Yeah, so this is Henry with Business Impact Northwest. So kind of what we're seeing on the technical assistance side is people are kind of shifting, as all the relief programs and loans have kind of died down or been filled up. We've seen a shift towards people starting to figure out what the next step is. So starting to think about reopening or what those processes and strategies might look like. And then also another big question we're getting is about PPP loan forgiveness. So they're starting to ask what they have to do to get that piece forgiven. So we did have a PPP loan forgiveness part 1 webinar this week, and we'll have a part 2 webinar coming up soon. I know there was just a big release of information about the PPP loan forgiveness, I think yesterday or last couple of days. So we'll have another webinar to explain that. And then just really we've been able to shift a lot of our technical assistance and coaching towards that operational support and figuring out what the next steps are. So, and we did bring on 3 new members on our COVID response team who are going to be focused on providing that small business support for any kind of disruptions or closures or other impacts from COVID-19. So definitely have increased capacity to support any entrepreneurs as we go along on the technical assistance side. And then on the lending side, we are back to actually reviewing new loans. So that's a good thing. They've kind of gotten through that triaging of the current portfolio and helping people through some of the relief loans. And they're now starting to look at some new funding. So if there's cases where people are trying to do some expansions, you know, and because of some pivots that they might be looking at, then that there's a good opportunity to get funding on that side. And I will put our website, and I'll put my email in the chat as well if you have any follow-up questions.
Yeah,
So,
there's one question, if the work you're doing is statewide.
yeah, statewide. And then also there's a question about someone's asking about the webinar link. So that's not available yet. I don't think they've set a date on that PPP loan forgiveness part 2, but definitely if you shoot me an email, I'll make sure you get that when it comes out.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions for Henry? And you can go ahead and put those in the chat box as well. We were going to do just a really quick update with some of the work that we've been doing also as a food systems program. So Nicole Witham convened a group of folks that work across the niche meat sector this week to begin talking about potential resources for livestock producers during COVID. And so I was going to have her give a brief update on that.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. So we did have a meeting earlier this week. We convened about 15 or so folks, mostly extension specialists, and then we had some veterinary specialists from the WSDA who also joined us, and Laura Raymond from the WSDA as well. And we're just really kind of brought everyone together to see what the status of things were in different areas of the state, to see what sort of processing facilities may still be running and operational, and at what scale are we seeing things change. Some of the takeaways that we went away from that meeting with are some of the immediate needs that we're going to be kind of just trying to get resources out about, are simply just letting folks know where and how they can get in contact with WSDA custom mobile slaughter units and wrap and pack processing shops throughout the state. So those are resources that are already available as lists on the WSDA website, because all of those facilities are certified and they track that. So I'm just working through a quick process of doing some editing of those, just to highlight what the mobile slaughter processors are and so on and so forth. So we hope to utilize our existing WA Meetup brand to begin to kind of get some more information out there, as well as our existing WSU Food Systems COVID HUB. There are other websites as well where information is going to be posted that other extension specialists that are working on around direct marketing of animals, as a lot of people are pivoting to direct market or sell their animal through custom exempt processes rather than through USDA or retail processes. So we will be letting everyone know where those go. It may be at the Animal Ag website for extension, and also some of the different 4-H sites as well. So just so this group's aware too, that's another whole kind of caveat of this, is things like fairs being canceled and 4-H families that normally raise a lot of animals and having to kind of figure out what to do with those. It sounds like a lot of folks are really figuring it out, and so far so good, but we want to keep our processors healthy and open, and slaughter dates available for our niche meat producers. So that's kind of just the real quick and dirty update of what we kind of talked through. Another thing I'd love to just hear from anyone in this group is if they have any updates from their kind of area of the state, if they are seeing and hearing anything trend-wise in terms of accessing of meat, producers who are meat producers, if they are seeing upticks in sales, if they're struggling, if they're having access issues with slaughter or processing, or things like that. So if anyone has anything to share on that topic, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And I think that's kind of it for now.
Great, thanks, Nicole. So if you have information to share, you can go ahead and put it in the chat box, and we'll just continue to keep this group updated on some of that work as it moves forward. I wanted to invite Abba to share also about her work with the Flower Hour, which happened last Saturday, as well as the launch of the International Quinoa Research Symposium.
Great. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I can't hear you, but I think you can hear me. So thanks, Laura. I just wanted to give a brief update. Some of you heard this last week, but we, as Cascadia Grains, did a simulcast presentation with some of our regional baking experts. We had Mel Darbyshire from Grand Central Baking, and Julie Hammond, who's a long-term baker in the Seattle area, as well as Catherine Curley, who runs the Seattle Culinary Academy, join us as our regional experts for a Flower Hour, which was simulcasted with our partners in California and Portland, Oregon, and it went really well. We had over 50 people join on a Saturday, which we were kind of unsure about how that was going to go, but we have a ton of resources for regional grain and the ways that you can access. There's a term in the grain world called SHB, which is Serious Home Bakers, and they're really looking for that flour that doesn't quite fit in the commodity market, which is just another opportunity for us to continue to keep these small scale, high rotational farmers in business. So I will share some of those resources that we collected in the chat box right after this. And if you have more questions, you can contact me. We're going to be doing a wrap-up call this weekend to sort of talk about what worked and next steps, because California and Oregon also had their calls as well, with great success. I just want to note as a aside that if you're hosting a free event, it's just to anticipate like maybe 20 to 30% attendance if you're feeling lucky. So I'm gonna go to the International Quinoa Symposium website right now. So we launched registration this week. This is going to be a free online event in August. We were going to have it here in Port Townsend, Washington, but because of COVID, obviously not happening. So we already have over 100 people registered from all over the world that went live this week. We are committed to offering this programming in both English and Spanish. And so we're working with partners at the Ruckelshaus Center and members of the lab, the Sustainable Seed Systems Lab, which is the Kevin Murphy's lab, the one that's actually putting on the event, to make sure that that is possible. So this is an event that will focus world attention on the role that quinoa's biodiversity, adaptability, and nutritional value plays in providing food security, seed sovereignty, sustainable production, and holistic use worldwide. Say that 5 times fast. So we're able to, through the Qualtrics, offer different languages as well. So that's something I learned through this process, is that if you're doing a Qualtrics survey, you can make sure that you have different languages available for folks. We have our WSU Food Systems NAT report now available in Russian and Spanish as well. And I think that's all I have for now. We'll be putting out a lot more media. You can check out our website. The International Quinoa Research Symposium is just quinoasymposium.com. And if you go to the main website, you can check out our speakers, which, you know, again, Dr. Kevin Murphy has been working with many of these folks for many, many years. There's a lot of lab members as well. We have folks from Australia, from South America, and from Kenya. So please take a look. It's really exciting. We're excited to be also partnering with other folks who are in this specific sector. So if you want to talk events or just gripe or try and come up with some creative solutions together, I'm happy to schedule a time to chat as we figure out how to embrace this online world. So I think that's it for me. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks, Abba, and thanks for bringing up the fact that we did translate the NAT tool. So I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the call. We haven't had a chance to proof it yet, so We're hoping that the Spanish and Russian translations are appropriate at this point, but we will try to look at proofing the survey tool. So the NAT tool is available. There's a drop-down menu for language, and you can select English, Spanish, or Russian at this point. So we're really hoping that that makes it more accessible for people to use across the state. Great, so do we have anyone else who would like to just jump in now and share an update, a positive story or a challenge that they've been working through related to the food system and COVID?
I can jump in. This is Sarah Sutherland with Sustainable Connections up in Bellingham. And we are in the midst of kind of retooling our Eat Local Month and Farm Tour, which we normally have in September. And we're actually shifting the promotion to be in August, as folks won't be thinking about going back to school yet. This August will look a little different for travel and kind of events, and just think we'll get to capture more folks getting out to farms, potentially, you know, spread out over the fall rather than focused on one weekend. So we're kind of doing a focus on farms, restaurants, markets, and seafood throughout the month with weekly themes. And just wanted to offer to partners for if there's any other regions that would want to participate, kind of see our outline as we're building it over the next couple weeks. It could be fun to do more of a region-wide kind of Eat Local Month promotion, and we'd be happy to collaborate. So we're just in the beginning stages, but we'll be rolling out outreach in the next couple weeks, and yeah, happy to collaborate. So just wanted to share that.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah, and thanks for your leadership too on the LFPP project to develop a statewide resource for farmers through the Food Atlas. We brought that up a couple weeks ago, and I know that you've been working diligently on getting that done. So I appreciate the time that you took this morning to be on this call as well.
Thanks. Yeah, we're about a week away, so almost got that off. But also just an update that Tilth Alliance received some funding that will be rolling out through WSDA as kind of a starter of a statewide map project. We will first be updating individual regional maps that are existing, like the Tilth Farm Guide and WSU Food and Farm Finder, our guide, and more, to get more farmers listed, and also to have a place where folks can search via where farms are delivering. So not just find the farm location, but what neighborhoods and cities they might have drop sites or deliveries in. And then we'll be creating a landing page that will direct out to all of the different sites that are existing. So that'll be kind of step one in moving in the direction of getting everybody onto one site. But we're excited to be able to have one place that's kind of a landing page to shoot people out to where they can find farms in their region. So just wanted to let folks know that project is starting, and we'll have that landing page live by the end of June.
Great, thank you so much. And what about American Farmland Trust? I see that you placed several updates in the chat box. I'm wondering if you wanted to update the group.
Sure, yeah, I can go over, this is Courtney. I can go over some of the quick things. I figured writing out at least documents them, but a couple things for this week. So last week, we released our first round of the Farmer Relief Fund grants, which is just $1,000, but it's something, and it went to 1,000 farmers across the country. So when we looked at that data, 57 of them were either in Washington, Oregon, or Idaho. If people are really interested, you can definitely ask how many were in each county, but I'd have to do that separately. And it prioritized mostly those experiencing the greatest expected revenue loss. There might be a second round. We hope to have a second round that comes out in the next couple months, and that just depends on fundraising, but it's looking promising. The second thing is that we, AFT, Snow Valley Tilth, KCD, KCC Farmland Trust, and quite a few other partners, WSU also, helped us host a farmer call a couple weeks ago that was really just to build community, create a connection, have people ask questions with a panel around COVID. And one of the things that came out of that was definitely interest in other calls. And so we've been planning another one. It'll probably be the first week of June for King County farmers to connect specifically on safety protocols and practices. And AFT is interested in partnering with other counties if there are entities that want to do farmer calls but know that they need more cooks in the kitchen. I'd be really happy to explore that with you, so feel free to email me. And then the third thing is that we have our Farms Under Threat report that's coming out, which is a national study on farmland loss and is just a really incredibly robust document looking at farmland protection efforts across the country, and then distilling down to the states, and creates a policy scorecard for each state. There's a coinciding GIS data that I think will be really helpful for farmland protection efforts moving forward. And that release and launch is next week at 8 a.m. Eastern time, if anyone's excited to get up at that time, and then more manageable for us at 11 a.m. at Pacific time. So I included the Zoom link if anyone's interested in being included there.
Great, thank you so much. Questions?
Hey, Laura, this is Cheryl Weiser.
Hey, Cheryl.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to let you all know that the Farm Guide is going to start rolling out from the printer this week. I'm putting a link in the chat to the PDF. So we printed 75,000 copies, and I am excited to say that all 75,000 of them have a home, which is pretty extraordinary. And they're actually fanning out across the state. And so if anyone has any questions or they're interested in working with me on getting some more farmers signed up, go ahead and feel free to reach out. But that's the news on the Farm Guide.
Congratulations, that's fabulous. We also have an update here from Diane Fish with Kitsap Conservation District. I know we talked about potatoes on last week's call as well, with Stevens County doing some potato rescue. Diane, do you want to talk a little bit about some potato rescue that's been happening out on the Kitsap Peninsula?
Hang on, I'm obviously. Okay, sorry about that. I was on my phone because I just got into the office. Yeah, so one of the things that we did early on was, I was aware, we reached out to Representative Mary Dye right after Britsville's distribution, and she put us in contact with the Potato Commission. And we worked with David Bobanek at Harvest Against Hunger. One of the things that we've been doing is we're a farm to food pantry county with the WSDA's Farm to Food Pantry program. And David was very helpful in the logistical piece of that. And so I put the link to the article in the Kitsap Sun, but we got 38,000 pounds of potatoes. We did pay the extra $2 a ton to have them sprout nipped. The potatoes that are coming are not, they're just washed and bagged. And so their shelf life is really not great. So we paid to have them sprout nipped. It's like $2 a ton. So it adds absolutely nothing to the cost of the potatoes. And our local community foundation stepped up and paid for the potatoes, and David donated the trucking. And we got 19 pallets, and we actually distributed most of them yesterday. And today I have 4 pallets left. And one of our local school districts took 5 pallets because they're going to send them out with school lunches in the coming weeks. And they come in 5, 10, and 15 pound bags. So you get what you get, but they're actually good looking potatoes.
That's great, and thank you for sharing that information. I'm sure that there's still more potatoes out there to be found. So
many.
Yeah.
Apparently, so they did a distribution yesterday in Tacoma, and I don't know how many of you are aware, but it was such a zoo. They were actually telling people to stay away from the area because people were lining up at like 8 o'clock in the morning. It just completely blew up. And but if anybody wants, I mean, you have to be able to take 40,000 pounds, But if you have like a regional food bank effort, I know that one of the things that we were hoping to do is fill the gap, because I anticipate that a bunch of those potatoes will be coming now through the emergency food network. And so the food banks really aren't set up to take, for the most part, like a whole truckload, right? They can take a pallet, because that, you know, but 2,000 pounds is a lot of potatoes. The advantage, of course, is that the potatoes that come through the commodity program, they're limited in distributing them because it's a means tested program. These, they can give them to anybody. And so that was kind of we were trying to fill a gap. We may do another load if they don't see an increase of potatoes coming through the food recovery system as that kind of like picks up. So yeah, just, you know, be aware that there's probably a bunch going to be coming through the food recovery system eventually. It just, you know, what do your food banks need right now? But yeah, it costs about all that you have to pay for processing, and it's 4 cents a pound, and that, for us, that included sprout nipping. And so 40,000 pounds is $1,600 plus the, you know, and if you reach out to David through me, you could probably get trucking donated.
That's great. And again, David's with Rotary First Harvest.
Yes, Harvest
Yep.
Against Hunger.
Yep. Any other updates that people would like to share? You can put them in the chat box, or you can just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Actually, Laura, has anybody talked about Farm to Food Pantry?
We haven't yet on any of these calls. There are people who are participating in Farm to Food Pantry who do participate in these weekly calls, and that might be something that we could talk about specifically in one of our upcoming calls. We could devote a portion specifically to that program.
It is a topic of interest. I know that Nils Johnson has been very involved with it. It's something that's working for us really well in Kitsap. We have a lot of community support on it, and it's really good for the small and diversified farmers who are looking for a little bit of extra money at the beginning of the season. So it's something to consider.
Yeah, and Carrie Backman asked about it as well, and I'm not sure how many counties are currently participating, but there's, so it's a program through Harvest Against Hunger, and I believe there was some WSDA funding initially associated with it as well. And
it's all WSDA funding. In fact, we actually got more money this year because the legislature authorized an additional $100,000 for the program. I think they had like 32 to 35,000 this year. So I mean, it's not a huge amount. We got $2,200 initially, and then we got another 3,000 after the ledge session ended. So
yeah,
but I think there's 17 counties participating.
Yeah, and the funds are available to be able to develop contracts with local farms for food pantries. And there's usually a match requirement involved as well. So I know when I was in Jefferson County, we would get anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a year. I know some of those amounts have gone up. I know Clallam County's participating, Kitsap County, I think Skamania and Klickitat will be participating this year, Stevens County. Diane just said a $500 community match required, so that's great. It used to be a dollar for dollar match. So, and then oftentimes there's also an opportunity to have a AmeriCorps Vista volunteer placed in your community as well to help get the program started and to coordinate it. So I know that that has also been done through Harvest Against Hunger. And Carrie's asking if we know when applications open again, and we don't, but I could reach out. Katie Rains was the lead on this prior to COVID. I know that she's been given several new jobs since the pandemic hit, but I would be happy to have this be a focus of one of our future COVID calls as well, maybe next week or the week after, depending on some availability of folks to be able to talk. And maybe Diane, you could talk in more detail as well about some of the work that you're doing in Kitsap. I know Diane just said that early fall is when the applications are open again. And she said here that Nicole Garden is the lead right now for Farm to Food Pantry at WSDA. Great, thank you.
This is Clea. I just want to add a couple comments to that concept. We participate in the Farm to Food Pantry program out here in Clallam County, and it's been a great program. And we typically have gone out to our local businesses in past seasons. I think we're in our 6th season or 5th season, and asked for matching donations. Obviously this year, that's a really hard thing to do, to go out to local businesses and ask them to donate money to this program. So we took a little bit of a different approach this season. We did the traditional Farm to Food Pantry program with the money that comes through WSDA and Harvest Against Hunger. But in addition to that, we worked with partners at our local land trusts, as well as one of our nonprofit economic development organizations, to develop kind of a parallel fund that we're calling the Farmers Fund. And it's essentially the same concept, only it's a little bit more flexible. And we've couched it as a program, a pre-contracting program for farmers, where farmers can apply for some funding and they can use it for whatever they need right now, infrastructure upgrades or to cover losses due to COVID. And then the contract is set up for the farms to repay that money in produce over 5+ years. So it's not in just this season. And part of the reason we did that is we didn't want a huge influx coming into food banks just in this one season, because Diane, as you mentioned, already food banks are struggling with handling the quantities of food. So this spreads it out a little bit more. It also couches it a little differently in that farmers can use this money straight up front to do whatever they need to do for it and then pay it back slowly over a couple seasons. Thanks to the land trusts, we were successful in raising about $40,000 over the last couple weeks to put towards this program, which is really awesome. So we're super excited. And we have applications opening to farmers today, I think. So if anybody wants more information and contract language and all that, we're happy to share what we've developed as part of the project. This is an idea that we took pretty directly from the Skagit Community Action Program that did a similar thing over the last few years, and we just kind of rallied everyone to do it as quickly as we could, responding to COVID. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there as an option for partnering with other community organizations to set something like that up.
That's fabulous, Clea. That's just an incredible story. And maybe what we could do over the next couple of weeks is combine a couple of you to talk not only about what you've been able to do in Clallam and maybe someone from Skagit, but then also to piggyback that onto the Farm to Food Pantry program.
I could just make one real quick comment, kind of circling back to the opening where we were talking a little bit about economic impact data being able to influence care, assistance and policy rolling out related to COVID. Diane mentioned that there's been a lot of potential funding in some of the federal responses focused on purchasing from local farms for emergency food response. And there is a lot of language about that in a lot of the relief coming out. To date, the way the programs have been structured has made it really difficult for that funding to actually be available to the scale of farms that has tended to participate in our state's Farm to Food Pantry program. So that's something that I think for those of you who have really experienced the way in which our state Farm to Food Pantry program has worked, to share those stories loudly and timely with decision makers that you know. We are at the state level working to try to get more of those purchasing funds directly available to the states rather than being managed out of USDA, where a local farm would need to compete in a solicitation program. So anyway, I would just say for those of you tracking it, this is a really important thing because I think we all know about the value of making, like Clea's story, just, you know, the work they've been doing there points out that where these connections can happen at the local level, there's a lot of powerful benefits to that. And the more that I think we can communicate about that, potentially there's more opportunity for the federal dollars to be used in that way. And if anybody wants to talk more about this, we're at the end of this call, but you know, send an email or give me a call.
Great, thank you so much, Laura. I think we have a topic for next week, next couple weeks, between our conservation district work that's happening with the resources and then talking about farm to food pantry. It seems like that might be something that we can really focus on, and maybe there's even a group through through these calls that might want to come together and like Laura said, maybe write a white paper or create some way to really communicate the impact of this program in their local community. Do we have anything else that anyone wants to share? You can put it in the chat box. Just to remind everyone that we'll be meeting again next Friday from 10 to 12. And we don't usually use the full 2 hours, but it's always there for us if we need it. And make sure that you fill out the needs assessment tool, send it out to your networks. And I loved Hannah's comment to WSDA about once we see how that tool, their tool was used, how we could improve our own. And we are going to try to add a section as well for people just to be able to share stories so that we can also highlight some of the positive things that are happening around the state in response to COVID.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, if we don't have any other comments or resources to share, just want to thank you all for participating. And we're going to spend a little bit of time right now just downloading the chat box and the meeting space. So again, we really appreciate the time that you take to participate in this forum, and we're really excited about being able to see some of these topics emerge that we can focus on in future weeks.